For what purpose does Mr. Massie seek recognition?
I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, this red flag law that's being marked up today is unconstitutional, it's hurtful, it's redundant, and I'll walk through each of those here in the brief time that I have. First of all, it's unconstitutional. My colleague already conceded that 17 to 19 states have already implemented similar laws. That's because this is the domain of state law. This is not the domain of the federal government. In fact, the Supreme Court struck down the Gun-Free School Zone Act prior because they tried to use it, somebody tried to use it for a gun that hadn't been in interstate commerce. And so this bill already admits to its unconstitutionality because two places in the bill, it tries to allude to interstate commerce, and it knows that this has nothing to do with interstate commerce, so the authors of this bill. So it's unconstitutional because it takes the authority of the states, it violates the 9th and 10th Amendments in that regard, in addition to the Second Amendment. But more importantly, it violates due process. Our country has a rich history of protecting due process, where you are innocent until proven guilty. This bill turns that on its head. You are now guilty until you can prove your innocence. You are deprived of a constitutional right to protect yourself and your family until you can prove your innocence. This is ridiculous and unconstitutional. And here's why it's hurtful. Already, one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle has said that this will prevent suicides. The problem is it doesn't prevent suicides. People who are having suicidal thoughts will not express those. If this bill they will not tell others that they are having these concerns about harming themselves, because this bill puts them in jeopardy. If they so much as tell a family member or a friend that they are having suicidal thoughts, then they know that their guns will be taken away by the federal government. So there's an incentive now for them to cover this up, to not disclose their thoughts, their hurtful thoughts, maybe to themselves or others. And this goes for police officers too, who know that if they lose their right to own a gun, then they're no longer employable, or security guards. So they're going to hold all that inside. They won't seek help, and you will have more suicides because of this, because this bill is going to presume they're guilty until proven innocent. Now, why is this bill redundant and unnecessary? Because every state in the union, all 50 states, have bills that are sometimes referred to as the Baker Act. In Florida, they call it the Baker Act. This allows the state government to go in and commit somebody to mental health facility, in most cases for up to 72 hours. What's the difference between that legislation that's been implemented at the state level and the legislation being debated today? The difference is that those bills on the books in all 50 states provide help to the person who is supposedly having thoughts of harming themselves or others, whereas this bill provides no help whatsoever. In fact, it goes in and agitates the person who may be having thoughts of harming themselves or others. So the state bills are already there. They're already being used. Again, it's called the Baker Act in Florida, but all 50 states have some form of this. And the difference between that legislation and this legislation is it provides help, but it also involves a mental health professional, which is not, that doesn't come into the equation here. And nobody's getting help from this bill. The money that's going to be wasted on hurting people, the money that's going to be wasted on this bill, wasted on taking away constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens who've done no crime. They're going to be convicted of a thought crime, basically, without a jury or a trial until they can prove they're innocent. That money should be taken and used to provide mental health assistance to the people who we are supposedly concerned about. Yet this bill does none of that. It turns our system of justice on its head by making people guilty until they're proven innocent. And if I may, because it's already been mentioned by two of my colleagues already today, we had Attorney General Merrick Garland in our committee last week. I'm still waiting on an answer from him. He refused to answer. He can answer this question. Were agents or assets of the federal government present among the crowd on January 5th and January 6th? If they were they agitating for the protesters to enter the building? And if so, did any of them of those federal agents or assets enter that building? Merrick Garland said he can't answer that question. He absolutely can answer that question. He owes the American people the answer, and I yield back.